working on it. That's the background music. I can bump it up if you want. I actually figured out how to get OBS running on this ancient laptop. The reason I went with OBS is so I could do fancy stuff like that. Yes, that is a Starlight. So there is no manual yet, so I'm literally just going off CAD files. So when you get your hands on the manual, the order of operations will probably be different than what you're going to see. But yeah, we're just gonna wing it. I'll probably screw something up. I've only actually done the 2.4 gantry so far. I haven't touched the Z yet, so this was the first time I'm putting this stuff together. Trust this thing. V2.4, you're looking at around, probably depending on where you are in the world, about 1,200 US plus shipping to 1,500 US depending on what size you build. The problem is right now with Rona and all that, everything's kind of thrown in a loop with shipping being overly priced, stuff not getting restocked. It's kind of a bad time to build. Can be done though. Somebody built a V2 within I think like 2 weeks of that thing coming out. Now this is a V2. You can do a V1 for cheaper and a V0 for even cheaper. And I'm just using an old soldering iron, and I had a pointed tip and I filed it down a bit just so it doesn't protrude so much. And that's what I use for setting these. I have a TS100, but I don't use that for Heatset Inserts. They do make special tips for soldering irons for Heatset Inserts. You don't really need them. You can also make a jig that does these really good, but as long as you keep an eye on it, don't give it too much heat, you can line them up pretty well by hand. As low as it goes. So on this one it starts at around 220 Celsius. I find if you go too hot, the plastic gets really hot and melts, and it's very hard to keep these stabilized as you're putting them in. They're more likely to end up crooked or out of position. So you want it basically just hot enough to melt, as low as you can go. And you really don't want to jam them in. If you jam them in, you run the risk of getting them stuck on the end of your soldering iron. Is that any better? Let me turn the music down. There. This is my first time using OBS, so if it's all screwy, just let me know. Figured though having the music go directly into the stream is better than the previous stream where you just had it coming through my shitty mic, which I do have a proper mic on the way. But again, Rona, so it might be a bit. Yes, these are the Aliexpress Heatset Insert. You can buy like a pack of them for like $9. It gets like, like 100 of them. These are from the Shenzhen Yangjin Industrial Company Limited brand, if you're curious about the exact ones I got. Honestly, I don't think it matters. Just make sure you get the ones that are in the sourcing guide that have the knurled, it's hard to see, shitty webcam, but they have a knurled finish to it, not just a few little teeth. Right now, I have a Logitech for cameras. I have a Logitech C920 for this camera, and then this one is a Microsoft LifeCam, because buying webcams right now is absolutely bonkers. It's ridiculous. I think I saw C920s were going for like $350 Canadian on Amazon at the moment. Yeah. I'm not at the point yet where I'm going to drop money on an SLR. Appreciate that, Brian. That's why I did those, to help people. Okay, so if you do what I just did there, where I accidentally, it was crooked, let it cool down before you go to move it. Again, you want it when you're moving these, you want as little as heat as possible being transferred. Yeah, you probably, honestly, if you had two C920s in a box, you probably could sell them and fund a V0 right now. It's bloody ridiculous. Because right now nothing is getting restocked, and everyone's working from home, so everyone's having to buy cameras, and everyone's realizing that the audio out of a webcam is shit, so they're buying mics. So everything's out of stock. There we go. Whenever I'm building, I like to do all the Heatset inserts all at once, get them out of the way. Let that cool. Warren, I ordered a Dragon hot end off Aliexpress mid-January. I received it end of March. The problem is a lot of stuff that flew e-packet or any of the cheaper shipping options, what they would do is those would literally just fly in the belly of planes for commercial flights for passengers. So the problem is, because nobody's flying right now, there's no planes to put packages on to transport them. So everything's having to wait for actual like boats and whatnot and dedicated cargo flights. So it's kind of ridiculous right now. It depends where you are in the world and who you're ordering from and what method of shipping you're using. Okay. I run it as low as it goes. I think this one goes down to 220. It's just, this is your cheap $15 Amazon special. Like, you can use a TS100, but I don't want to damage a good tip on that kind Yeah, I'll leave it up. I don't plan on taking it down. The one from last weekend's still up, although the comments didn't stay up. I don't know why. Oh. Can you hear me now? Okay, can you hear me now? Trying a different microphone.
Okay, there we go. Everything completely froze and locked up. Again, I am streaming on a super ghetto old ThinkPad from 2010. Properties. I don't know why I can't go back to the other.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, I think I got the microphone working again. Back to the old one. Okay, I think we're okay. There we go. Geez, I tried to open up one window and it froze. Okay, so back to work. Okay, so we got the inserts in. And so now we're going to go put these together. So I don't have the CAD in front of me because obviously if this thing could barely handle a stream, it can not going to handle running Fusion. So we have a picture on the Discord on how these go together. So, bearings. Okay, so actually, bearing, 80 tooth. And then washers. Bearing. Two more washers. Now I need this. Where's my repeat pad? Go. And then another one. Okay. So I don't know if you saw at the beginning, but what I do whenever I have two pieces that have to sit flush against each other, I just use a big file and just give it a quick rinse over on the flat surfaces just to make sure there's no little nubs or anything. So they do sit flush against each other. And then of course it's always a good idea to, anytime you have parts that go between two parts, so in this case would be like bearings, to just do a test fit to make sure everything lines up before you go and start slapping stuff together and find out you have misalignment issues. So for these, it's bearing, 80 tooth, washers, bearing, washers, your 20 tooth bearing, and essentially your bearing stack is on the middle bearing, or your washer stack's on the middle bearing, so everything's spaced off that. That's your basically your zero. So you need 1 millimeter bearings, you need 1 millimeter washers, 2 of them, and you basically squeeze the 80 tooth and the 20 tooth in towards the middle when you tighten down the set screws, and that should keep everything lined up. You can use the 2.2 printed wheels. You still can use the printed ones if you want. We do have a beefier version of them available. Apparently some people, if they really tighten down the loop, the 188 loop, they were turning them into eggs. So now we do have the option if you want to use the metal ones. These aren't cheap. They're like $10 each or something dumb like that. But if you want to stick with the printed ones, you can. Yeah, let me see here. I might have one. There we go. This is a V-lock. This is the original design for the printed 80 tooth. And let's just take a look here. Yeah, so you would be able to use the printed one just fine. The 5 screws. Trying to think. Are you talking about these screws? You're gonna make me take this apart. Okay, so this is your standard 80 tooth. That was common in the 2.2. Yeah, it does appear to be rubbing. What you would probably have to do, instead of button heads, you would have to use socket heads or low profile. I think the design spec does call for socket heads here, not button heads. So that may be one of the reasons. I'm not too sure. Okay, so now I gotta put this together. And yes, I'm one of those guys that use a 99-cent bottle of clear nail polish instead of Loctite. Yeah, button heads, not socket heads, sorry. Try and make it a habit of after you Loctite in or whatever your screws, you make sure you wipe away any excess. You don't want that stuff getting anywhere it shouldn't be. There we go, there's one. Yeah, the manual's still being worked on. If you've built a Voron before, this is actually a really simple build compared to previous revisions. So, like the D cut. Are you talking about the flat on the dowel? So on mine, man, this camera sucks out of focus. What I do is at work we have a table grinder, so or a surface grinder. So I just put them flat on the surface grinder, disc them down. But if you have any sort of grinder, it can cut it flat. Depending on the type of rod you use, a file might be able to cut it. You basically just need a flat for the set screw to push against to prevent it from spinning. And yes, that is just 99-cent nail polish. Because I have this stuff, but this stuff works a little too good on the small screws, so I don't use it. I've learned that mistake. And then I got this really nice bottle of Vibrotite. The problem is it fell over on its side, and now I can't get the lid off. It is, it's not budging. It is completely glued shut. So now making. So I'm finding out the tapped holes for the M5 set screws on these pouch guys here aren't exactly the cleanest. If you have an M5 tap, you may want to run one through here just to make sure they're it's going in, but it's gummy. Aluminum, when you tap it, can be kind of gummy, and if your tap isn't that good, threads aren't that healthy. It just means it won't come out. And luckily, they come in a 5-pack, so if you really screw one up, you have a spare. Remember, kids, cross-threading is a natural thread locker. Yeah, Mechatronic, if they brought back Celebrity Deathmatch, that would be a good idea. If they're, Eugene, if they're smaller than these, or if they're, even if they're just like this, just without the flange, they should be fine. Like, I'm assuming if the custom ones worked, basically, if it works in a 2.2, it should work in here just fine. I'm pretty sure. So if you bought something fancy for a 2.1 or a 2.2, you should be good. What's up, Austin? And now comes the part where I hope I have enough M3 by 40 mils. So these screws not only hold it together, they line everything up. So I just kind of get everything in there, not tight, just kind of snug, and then tighten everything down once all the screws are in to make sure it's lined up perfectly. There we go. Perfect. Everything that moves nice and free. That'll do. One. Yeah, the wiring is one of those things I hate doing it, but then once I get started, I find it relaxing. It's just getting to the point where I can actually just sit down and do it for a couple hours straight. we go. 2 done. Yeah, that's one thing I still gotta do. Yeah, DIN is looking to be like mounting, like your current mounting with the printed brackets. You can still do that, but DIN looks to be the way forward for new builds. This guy probably won't have DIN because I don't have any of them, and I already have all the brackets printed. Plus, I'm using a taco, so. I use Allen keys for everything, even at work. Trial and error, Brian. My V2 already has a 2.4 gantry in it. I put that in a couple weeks ago. I have the CAD file. I know it's not out public yet, but I do have access to that, so I can see. And you just kind of have to look on how parts go together. Like in this case, it's literally 2 halves. And we have a picture on the Discord pinned of a cross section, so you can see where the bearings and washers go. And then it's just, 6 screws and 6 inserts, and you sandwich it together. Done. So you just kind of have to look at some pictures and just kind of get an idea. It's not that complicated of a build, really. There we go. Those guys are done. Okay, so let's see. So that goes like that. So if that goes like that, pushes that, I want this one like that. Yeah, the pins have a lot of useful information, and if you just ask, somebody may be able to just pull it up and help you. Like right now, I'm literally just going off of memory because I don't have the CAD in front of me. Because again, 10-year-old laptop. No dampeners. Dampers are eliminated. With TMCs being spec, you really don't need dampers anymore. They theoretically you probably could still, well, actually, you might still be able to use them if you really wanted to, but you really don't need to anymore. Yeah, I have like 16 dampers or something stupid like that floating around right now left over. There's nothing, grossly wrong with them. It's just we're using them to solve a problem that we solved in a much simpler way. Go to TMCs, which everyone pretty much does anyways now. So the thing with dampers, if you slap your dampers on, like say your CR10 or Ender 3 or the XY of a normal like Cartesian style printer, an i3 style, it causes the motor to lean, which can lead to artifacting. So we got around that on the 2.1 and the 2.2 by having it drive the motion indirectly. So that's what the belt loop was for. So that would basically cancel out any inherent imperfections caused by a slightly leaning shaft. And it also allows you to disconnect your motors from the XY motion entirely by just removing the belt for maintenance. The Mini E3 does have some inherent electrical issues or something with the PCB not being routed properly. It's not really an issue on the V0 because the voltages are much lower on it. It's less demanding. But essentially, the SKR is just, it's easier and it's more reliable, we think. Plus, it allows you to swap motors and whatnot if you really want to, or drivers. And you have more headers. Like right now on my V0 with the Ender 3 Mini, or the E3 Mini board, we have to use a servo controller hookup to run the SKR because there's literally not enough MOSFETs. It's very bare bones when it comes to hookups. Although you can run two E3 Minis, I believe. I think somebody has it. Done it that way. Okay, so now I gotta put these things on. Manual's still work in progress. I don't unfortunately know the ETA because I don't work on the manual. What are these for? Oh, that's for the... Oh, that goes down there. Okay. Yeah, I see now. Again, this is my first time doing a 2.4Z. My current machine has the 2.2. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to put some more heatset inserts, it looks like, in there, I think. All right. Yep. Okay, more heat sets. If you... Pablo, are you running a 2.0? 2.0? Like, first gen? Seriously? Like, the 2.0 is it's a good printer, but how are you not destroying printed idlers and belt coffins, killing your belts? And it's the reason only like 40 of those were built. All the heatset inserts. Yeah, once we figured out that good heatset inserts were, you know, really good, we swapped to using them in a lot of places. So much better than a nut trap for the most part. Okay. Anthony, if you missed my last stream, I completely tore apart a 2.2 that was fully mechanically functional and just needed the wiring to be done. And I completely ripped it apart, and that's what I'm rebuilding right now. So my opinion on if I should rebuild my 2.2 into a 2.4, I am, because I wanted to stream something, and because I want a 2.4, I want a current, up-to-date revision of a Voron instead of just test pieces. But essentially, if you have a fully functional 2.2 and it's printing fine, you really won't see any big difference in print quality. For example, jumping to a 2.4, it might be a little bit quieter, just because the belt pathing has less constrictions. But for the most part, it's functionally and practically the same. The 2.4 is really meant as a, if you're starting off, we want to make it as simple as possible to jump into a new build. It's not like a 2.1 to 2.2 was an upgrade or 2.0 to 2.1 upgrade. It's more of a side grade and a better start for those jumping into building a Voron. Derek, manual is being worked on. Ross, my iron is as low as it goes. So in this case, it's $220 because this is a $15 Amazon special. You don't want to get too hot because if you liquefy the ABS too much, it makes it harder to keep the insert lined up straight. And cooked ABS isn't as strong as properly set ABS. There we go. Yeah, we Andrin, we really spent a lot of time on 2.4 trying to simplify the build. We felt 2.2 got a little too complicated. For the tip, I'm using just a conical tip, and what I did was I just took a file to it to just kind of shorten it a bit, just so it wouldn't stick out past the insert and melt plastic and get all gummed up. But it's just a standard conical tip. Okay. And pine nuts. What happened by nuts or uh-oh. That ain't good. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna have to restock some of these. Well, get building RAM, not. So, what I'm going to recommend is a little tip. Whenever you have like a hex nut set into something, and a screw holds it from the other side, but there's a chance it could fall out. Just, you know, dabble do ya. Just put a little itty bitty drop of super glue. When you put it in, don't drop it. Get it covered in dog hair. Yeah, put a little drop of super glue, just so that way it doesn't fall out on you down the road. It's funny because I have a perfectly pair of pliers I could be using to hold these with, so I don't get super glue all over my hands. There we go. The Dragon hot end, Giad, basically if you're looking at upgrading from a V6, get a Dragon. I have 2 mosquitoes. My current V2 runs one, and this one will be running one. But I will be putting a Dragon in my V0 at some point. Right now it has a V6. I'm going to be swapping it. For the price, it's much better than a V6, and you're not really getting much with spending much more on a mosquito. The big advantage with the Dragon is here. Let me. So, this is a mosquito. This is a Dragon. Okay, so the Dragon heat block looks a lot like a V6 heat block. The mosquito is their own thing, but the big thing with it is the way it mounts. Now this one has a V6 style groove mount that I'm going to be removing because they screw in. So one, it's a fixed mount. It's actually a rigid hard mount to wherever you're mounting it to. So you don't have to worry about it, rotating, coming loose or wobbling, because it's actually mounted. Like it's a hard mount. And then also, because if you look on both the Dragon, come on, focus, you fuck. The heater block is actually physically attached to the heatsink. Same with the Dragon, or Mosquito. So that means when you change your nozzle, you literally just unscrew it. As long as your X carriage is mounted properly, which it is on a Voron, you literally just unscrew it. You don't have to get in there with a wrench and hold it with a wrench, and you risk undoing the whole contraption. Yeah. I would take either of these over a V6, but I would get the Dragon just for the cost of performance. Yeah, you can use the Dragon, obviously. Okay, where did I put the feet at? There are the feet. So I don't think... Oh no, that clears. Okay, so I can put these on now. Yeah, in my opinion, like, E3D has been slacking quite a bit. They got to the top, and now they've been kind of coasting. And it's kind of sad when a Chinese company is being able to build better hot ends than your V6, because the Chimera is still basically a V6 just with an extruder strap to it. The hot end itself is not really different at all. You're still using a titanium heat break as your structural component and your heat break, and they really should move past that. They need to have fixed mounted heater blocks. Jeff, the V6 is simple. It's like, if you look at the old J heads or whatever, like, I understand where they're coming from with it, but yeah, it should have been replaced years ago. It's an old design that really should not be around much longer. And the fact that they're dragging it along with the Chimera, I'm not impressed with the Chimera. I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, the 2.4, the Afterburner tool head supports the V6, the Mosquito, and the Dragon. It supports the big three. Then the Afterburner works on the 1.8, and the V0 has 3 separate tool heads for each hot end. So yeah, it's compatible with all. I haven't used the Mellow Mosquito clone. If you ask around on the Discord, I think a few people have. They don't seem too bad. I don't know how much you're saving though versus a true E3D or a true Triangle Labs Dragon. If it's like a quarter of the price, maybe. But if it's like half or you're only saving like $20, I would still get the legit one. The Dragon's a really good hot, and it works with all E3D standardized components like nozzles and whatnot. Yeah, I would just go right to the Dragon. The Copperhead, it looks interesting, but it's from just looking at the pictures, it looks like it's got the same problem as the V6, where the heater block is just attached by a heat break and not physically mounted. So if you unscrew your nozzle, unless they have it differently, but it looks like if you unscrew your nozzle, you have to hold the heater block, otherwise it's going to unscrew as well. I bought 2 mosquitoes. I like them. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're garbage. But if the Dragon had come out a year earlier, I would not have bought mosquitoes. Like, I was kind of peeved. I bought 2 of them. They only gave me 1 sticker. Still got a lollipop though. These guys don't have the script printed yet, so that's not going on. I'm in Canada, so. But I fully understand wanting to support domestic companies. Like I'm just saying the product that they make is okay, and for once it's not a clone. Like, okay, where's my brain? Do as I say, not as I do. Don't build a 420mm tall V2. So Giad, with the high flow hot end, it has a longer melt zone, so you do have to tune the retractions more because you will have more oozing issues. Essentially, you may not be able to get as clean retractions. If you plan on printing with a fat nozzle a lot, like if you plan on running a 0.8 or bigger nozzle constantly, get a high flow. Otherwise, the standard flow, the high speed videos I did on my channel are with a regular mosquito, not the high flow one. But yeah, basically only go high flow if you really need high flow. Like a standard mosquito or dragon does output more than a normal V6. Not quite volcano territory, but 13 to 15 cubic millimeters is fine with it. Okay, so how does this go on? So that goes like that, right? Yeah, this goes like that. And that goes there. Okay. So I think I need 40 mil. With the updates, the Z has changed. Essentially, we couldn't get as much out of it as we used to reliably. Although technically with 2.2 and even 2.1, you weren't getting the full Z. depending on how your bed was mounting, was really close. If you check the website, if you go to vorondesign.com and look at configurator for a V2, it'll tell you the current size with the current specs. If you are worried about losing a little bit extra, you can just go and make a custom size and tell it the print volume you want, and it'll spit out the size of extrusions and rails you need. And yeah, the afterburner is taller, so you do lose kind of that. What watt heater do you use? I use a 50 watts on my V2s, and on my Zero, I run a 40 watt. Okay, am I gonna have to move these? Yes. Yeah, if you only plan on ever printing with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, like 90% of people with a 3D printer, standard flow is the way to go. Oh yeah, and on 2.4 you can get away with using these style Chinese T-nuts everywhere. You don't need the Masumi nuts anymore. The little ball spring ones are good to go everywhere. I don't know if you would get some more room with the Galileo. Go. Wait, did I put these on the right way? Yeah, because the gantry. Yeah, okay. Yeah, these are the right way. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, up here we're pretty much stuck with Aliexpress for pretty much everything. There are some stores on the American Amazon that do carry it, and they might ship to Canada if you're lucky, but I haven't looked into it. So, yes, I'm going to leave this up. I don't plan on taking it down. I don't know if comments will be available, but the stream itself will be up. Why do I always misplace my Allen key? Why do I always do this? You can always ask in the Discord if you're building it and you have any questions, just, you know. I don't know how far I'll get tonight. The plan was only to get as far as getting the Z in. We're already at an hour and 15 minutes-ish. Or actually, no, an hour and 35 minutes, but we'll see how far we go. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and I don't know what other YouTube people say. Have you heard about Raid Shadow Legends? And by the way, if they do offer me a sack of money to whore up to Raid Shadow Legends, I will take that because that means more Vorons. NerdQ, what I would recommend if you are going to do the upgrade from 2.2 to 2.4, I would either do the entire gantry or the entire Z. You'll probably see more of a difference going to the gantry first. So you can basically just rip out the whole gantry and replace the whole gantry with a 2.4 gantry, and you're good to go. And you can run the existing Z, upper and lower. My 2.2 or B226 is currently running. It's got a 2.4 gantry, well, a beta 2.4 gantry. It's got beta upper 2.4 Z idlers, which is the old revision, which is the Cybertruck revision, which didn't make public for a reason. And then I have the 2.2 Z modules, which are actually a beta version of the 2.2 Z modules. So I need to put some motors on this now. So that goes there. And that will pivot out, right? Yeah. Squarespace. Okay, so I think these use I don't know, maybe. Is 10 mil or what? What do we got here? Yep. 10 mil. Or is it 8? 8 mil. Yep, 8 mil. And need some more of these guys. I like my Allen keys, okay? I don't need hex drivers. Just the Angry Eye Z Lidlers. Get one out of the bag. Yeah, good enough. They are official, by the way. The Angry Eyes are staying. Because we take things super serial here in Voron land. Super serial. Put that there. Get in there. Idlers. Funny joke. Funny joke. Screw that one. Okay, so go there. And I'm gonna do this guy. If you want to put googly eyes on him, go right ahead. Oh, this part's kind of annoying. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna have to drop that. Or actually, let's take a look here. Go in. I think these are 10 mil. These gotta be 10 mil. There's no way that's enough thread. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. So, about 2.5 years. Wife got me a Monoprice Select Mini for Christmas. And that was my first 3D printer. And then I outgrew that because it's tiny as hell. And then I built myself a V1. And then when that was done, I built myself a V2. Okay. Yeah, that can work. I'm gonna have to do this over. Yep, okay. So you come out. Loosen that. So these guys are going to have to be swapped around. So it looks like on your Z motors, you're going to have to put your 17 tooth drive gear like that. There we go. Uh, 16 tooth, 17 tooth. Where the heck do you hear 17 tooth from? Ain't no 17 tooth. Okay. So now we gotta set the idler or the 16 tooth. So get these down. Okay. There. Up there. Okay. And now the magic way to tension these is, should just be able to, make sure these aren't too tight. Okay, so to tension your belt, there you go. To loosen your belt, and to tighten your belt. There you go, belt is properly tensioned. And then tighten them down. Give them a spin, make sure everything lines up, nothing's rubbing. You're good to go. One Z module done. Oh god damn it. I forgot to put my the bottom sheet in. Oh well, I'll do it later. These gotta come out anyways. It's cam angle. No lean. Actually, you know what? Maybe it was 8 mil. I think those screws aren't bottomed out, or are bottomed out. There we go. Now we're good. No lean there. Yeah, I'm not putting the belts in tonight or anything like that, so I'll just do it at a later date. There we go. Drop it down just a little bit. There is zero shame in spending time to make sure your belts are lined up. It's better to spend an extra 5 minutes building, putting your belts together and making sure everything's lined up than tearing it apart later because you forgot a scrub screw or a belt was rubbing and squeaking. No, that's not. Where'd I put the Allen key? No. Oh, I dropped it. Shit. There we go. For your seatbelt, you'll cut them long, and then you'll tension them by hand, and then you're going to use the adjustment to get rid of any slack, and then you trim them. Yeah, once everything's assembled, you don't have to like play with alignment or anything. Oh, that's so nice. Tensioned. And then just make sure it's square. Go. Yeah, cut them all the same. The configurator is it's a calculation, so it spits out the exact number. What I normally do is when I get the big, 10-meter long spool of it, I'll just run right off the spool, one whole run, plus extra, cut that, and then use that to cut my other 3. I'm paranoid about cutting it short. When you put the feet on, make sure you don't use, I'm using M5x8. Make sure they're not too long and hitting the belt. So just make sure everything's still moving freely after you install them. This is a oddball size because I built a V1 2 years ago, way too big. At the time, this was a 300 by 300 by 400 1.55. Since it's going to be a V2, according to the current 2.4 configurator calculation machine thingy, we're looking at 330 by 330 by about 410 for the Z. So yeah, it's an oddball size. Don't build that tall. Yeah, it's just under. Like I'm reusing my 300 millimeter bed. I'm not buying a new bed just because I'm not going to waste a perfectly good bed and heater. Plus 330 is an oddball size. I'm not going to find flex plate in that size most likely. So I'm just going to keep it as is and just use the extra room for a purge bucket or something. So. There we go. You can use pretty much anything as a foot. Like any, I'm pretty sure you can print one in TPU if you really wanted to. Or you could probably honestly just stick one of those little furniture felt pads on the bottom of this and it'll work. Don't quote me on that, but I think you can. I don't think it'll cause any issues with clearance. That would be the only thing with feet, just make sure electronics are cleared. I think you're okay. Yep. Yeah, I remember seeing TPU feet were not quite uncommon on V1s back in the day. Damn it. There we go. By the way, these things, never buy behind the head headphones. I found these in the basement. They're old. It's all like this shit's upstairs. There we go. It's got feet. Okay, upper head time. So, this is gonna be fun. There we go. Build it further away so you can see. Focus. There we go. Okay, so it looks like on these guys, that goes in like that. Yeah. That is pretty simple. Okay. And maybe not. Let's go here. Oh, no. 25 mil. Do I have an M525? Shit. Yeah, 30. 30 mil. Okay, so 30 mil there. Well, yeah, you would get better results if you bolted it down. Like, I'm sure, you know, if I put mine on the ground instead of having them on a workbench. But you're talking, like, at the speeds you would be printing, where that would benefit you, your prints are going to look like shit anyways. They can only melt and re-solidify plastic so fast. So, what? Probably 29 and 320. Let's see here. Not too long. Camera 2. Okay, so for the idlers, it's really simple now. You have an M3 nut that goes in the top. You have two M5 by 30 millimeter screws that go through the body. You have your idler holder that literally just kind of goes in like that. And then you have a 16 M3 by 16, I believe, screw that goes in there, and you just get it started in the nut, and that's it. Now, where are my idlers? Okay. Go. So those are 9mm, and you're going to need an M3 or an M5 by 30. So it uses M3 30s. Now it screws together, but it's not actually like you're not really screwing it like it's not threaded. The screw is basically just acting, taking the place of the of a pin, and it's basically just biting in enough to keep it from walking out. So just get it started. Dry Lair in, and screw it in. And don't reef it down. Now, actually, can't remember if I need washers there. I'm not sure if I need washers there. Let me take a look. Let's take a look. Do I have a picture? No, no. That's what I'm thinking. I think it just floats. Yeah. So anyways, bring it back up so I can see what I'm seeing. So there's your your idler. Bah. Feed me ABS. Bah. Yep. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. So anyways, so the screw to tension it is you just kind of come in there with your ball end, and hopefully you have a ball end Allen key, and that's how you tension it. So just leave it loose now, and then you just screw it in. And then there is a little tab on one side, and that tells you which corner it goes into, because that tab right there indexes into one of the 2020s. So go. Now when you tighten the M330s that hold it to the frame, until you have your belt installed and tensioned, leave them a little bit loose, because that'll let you tension the Z belt, and then once the Z belt's tensioned, then you screw those M330s down to lock them in place. It's about 400Z. It's based off my old V2 frame. Yeah, okay, so you don't need the ball end anymore? These are the new ones, I think. I don't know, I have so many revisions of parts. I'm hoping these are the latest ones. Yeah, I have it set to record, so it should stick around, hopefully. I don't know if chat will. It didn't save last week's, but hopefully it saves this week's. I gotta remember to read the question when I go to answer it, in case it doesn't. I'm a bad streamer. Okay, make sure you put your 16 mil M3 screw in before you put the idler in. It won't fit in otherwise. There we go. I use the printed zip chain all through 2.2. I switched to using the China chains for 2.4 simply because of ease of assembly. It's just much easier to work with, in my opinion. They're not really needed. It's not the end of the world if you don't use. If you want to use printed, it's fine. I ran printed for a year and a half, no problem. Long story short. You should have room for 10 mil. These are 9 mil, and they fit fine, and there's quite a bit of play, so 10 mil should be okay. If not, you can easily hack the STL to make it just a slight bit wider, I'm sure. But yeah, Alberto, the printed chains work fine. My V226 still uses the printed Z chains because my China Z chains didn't come in time, and I didn't feel like waiting. They came in the next day after I finished building it, but whatever. But printed chains are fine. It's just they're more finicky. Yeah. Yeah, tape chains. My V2 was actually the test bed for testing tape chains. I was the very first V2 to have one. And tape chains work fine until you start pushing 1,000 hours plus. By that point, though, the friction from the test of tape on the tape measure and it just causes wear on the long term. Short term you're fine, but long term you start seeing wear, and we didn't like that, so that's why we went to drag chain style. Yeah, I know tape chains did look nice because you can get different color braided sleeves and whatnot. But I'd rather not have my wiring short circuit. Oh yeah, TS100. Yeah, I love this thing. Got that, and then what I use, this is one of those cheap 360 watt, 24 volt Amazon special power supplies with the loud annoying fan. So I printed your standard plug that you see on like Vorons, for example, fused inlet, a few XT60s or 30s. So I have this cord for running the TS100, and then I also have another cord for charging my drone lipos. So that's what I use to power it. They run so much better when you feed them 24 volts versus even 19 or 18 off a laptop. Don't even bother running them on 12. There we go. So that is the 2.4Z assembly, basically. I don't have the skirts, so I can't put the skirts on and the cover plates for that, but this is the actual mechanical, so this would function as is, for example. So yeah, so that's the 2.4Z. Any questions? What are we at? So yeah, about 2 hours to put together. I don't know if I'm going to get started on the gantry tonight because I won't finish it in one night. So I don't know if I want to do that in a full separate stream. I might start hacking away at it. Let's see. Are there any parts that go on the front of the frame other than the door mounts? Not really. You got the door mounts. I think the screen mounts under the front. Yeah, so that one's outdated. Those are actually like 500 millimeter MGN 9s, I believe. Basically for the rails, they could be as long as your Z extrusions if you want, really. Let me see here. It's an oddball size frame. It's not a spec frame, so I instead of getting an oddball size length of rail, I just got the next full size. Yeah, they're 500 mil rails. Okay, tell me how the X part for the Bowden of the new Afterburner 2.4 fits. Are you asking how the X carriage is now, how it works with Bowden setups now versus direct feed? It was originally the frame for a V1 that was 300 by 300 by 400. So that's why the frame is that size. When converted to a current 2.4, that's why it ends up like 330 by 330 by like 410 or 420 of Z. So it's not a spec frame. That's why. And that was a V1.5 build, not a V6 1.6. So yeah, I think I'm going to cut it there for building. I'll do gantry on another stream, just so I can devote more time to it. Just making sure I got everything to do a gantry. I'll stick around for a little bit more if anyone has any questions while I clean up. I need to find some better music for the next one. The mini manual, the pre-release or the beta of it is actually out already. It's pinned in the V0 section of the Discord. So if you go there and check the pins, there is a manual already pinned there. There might be some issues like labeling, stuff might be out of order. It's a beta release, but it is pretty much, you can build a printer off of it as of now. There might be some typos. Alberto, I tried lo-fi hip-hop and I got hit with like 10 copyright strikes, so I try to avoid that. That's my go-to music though when I'm actually just building by myself. This is currently No copyright sounds, gaming music, live stream, chill out mix, electric radio. Bowden module front piece. I don't know how it gets. Shoot, I don't. My hot end that I have printed is for the Clockworks, so the direct feed version, not the Bowden module. If you post some pictures to the V2 or the Afterburner section of the Discord, somebody there might be able to help Bowden mod, because I haven't actually looked at the Bowden feed tool or Afterburner yet. I've only ever looked at the direct feed version with the Clockwork. For the drive belt for the XY on the 2.4 gantry, it is different. It's actually simpler than the 2.2. So you can reuse your 2.2 XY belts on a 2.4 because 2.4 is slightly shorter. Print's done. The Z belts on. Bring it back up. And switch cameras. So, on the Z belts, wires. Look at my ceiling. You can see that screw there, right there. Focus, you fuck. There you go. So you tighten that screw, and that would allow this whole thing to move up. And then when it's tension, you tighten these screws down, and that locks it in place. Yes, that is a Benchy. So I do plan doing. So this guy right here is my spare parts i3. Okay, it is literally built out of spare parts. It's slapped together. You know, I'm going to slap Marlin on a Ramps 1.4 with A4988s on this thing. It's using a market geared extruder, and this thing is being built to be a cheap, shitty printer, because I do plan on doing a whole series on how to take your printer like this and tune it to print good ABS parts, because we have a lot of questions on how do I print ABS parts. So the reason you see random Benchies is because a Benchy is kind of tall, and Benchy's actually taller than most Voron parts when you print them. For example, this is a cooling duct I just printed. It is taller than a Benchy. So the trick is, when you are printing ABS, you want long, consistent layer times so that your print cools equally and evenly so you get a consistent print. Because the last thing you want to do is when you're printing something with ABS, have a detail be printed much quicker than the rest of it. You'll noticeably see the quality difference, and it can affect structural integrity as well. So the easiest way to get it to stretch out layer time is to add something else to the print bed. So in this case, add a benchy with like 2 walls and 10% infill or something, just to drag that layer time out. Because if you do it naturally without speeding up or slowing down, because you can always like tell your slicer to increase layer time, but then you're printing at a different speed, so it won't be a consistent print. You want it to basically be printing with the same settings throughout the entire print, not speeding up and slowing down, because then you will see the difference. I will be doing 9mm Z belts on Tallboy there. My current printer uses 6mm all around. It's a 250, so it's fine. Yeah, Alberto, the plan is basically to take a printer that literally just turned on and show you how to get it printing good ABS prints as quickly and as simply as possible. George, I will not be uploading the manual. I don't do the manual. I'm just a guy on the dev team. But when it is uploaded, you will see it posted. So yeah, so that is a crappy benchy. It's a boat. It's a benchy. You've seen a million of these. When it comes off my printer, it goes in the garbage. Is there a cost difference with 9mm belts for Z? It's a few bucks. Honestly, go with 9mm if you're doing a new build. The only reason 6mm parts are still available is because of legacy. Patrick, don't print your ABS parts one at a time. You actually want to print full plates of them. You want to print as much as you can at once, so that way each layer can cool naturally and not overheat. And you don't want a fan. Basically, you run just a fan just to clean up the edges. You don't run a fan for cooling with ABS. Asking if you could reuse 2.2 Z belts if you have excess. I don't know off the top of my head. I would say like an inch or two. Yeah. ABS juice. I've never used ABS juice. I've always just printed straight on PEI. And yeah, I'm running energetic PEI sheet spring shield spring plate. So it's not the textured one. It's just a slap of PEI on a spring shield or spring steel, and it's there magnetic. And so far nothing's coming off, so it's working. Yeah, that I got to finish wiring up. That guy, I finished building it actually about 2 months ago. It's just been sitting in the corner collecting dust. I got to make a mount for the power supply and a ramps. But once that's done, that'll be up and printing. And then hopefully I'll do some videos on that. So I might live stream wiring that up one day. But yeah, it's going to run just Marlin 8-bit on a shitty ramps. It's meant to be a crappy printer, essentially. So I'm not going to go buy an Ender. Screw that. Yeah, the PA09 is a very good crimper. Yeah, I've posted pictures to the Discord over the past while. With ABS, I try to print as much of a full plate, especially with like ESA and ABS Plus, and I know that won't warp off my plate. I have no problem just letting it run with a full bed. No, because the magnet is consistent throughout the entire bed, it's just a magnetic sheet glued down. Um, the spring steel actually is better for the inducted probe because it senses metal based on science. But basically, it doesn't detect aluminum as much as it will detect spring steel. Um, that's why, like with a spring steel bed, you can actually get away with a PL05N, which has a shorter sense distance. That won't actually be enough with aluminum. That's why we spec the 08 for an aluminum bed. But it'll trigger more. It'll trigger sooner with steel versus aluminum. Yes, science. Yeah, that doesn't reach. I need to actually get a good setup in here one day. Everything's just kind of strapped together. There we go. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it there, guys. If you do have any questions, if you think of anything that you want to ask, feel free to just ask in the comments below or hit me up on the Discord. I'm using a DaVinci to make sound 30 millimeters a second. I have about 70% of my print. Yep, when I started with my Monoprice Select Mini, I printed all the parts for my V1.5 in PETG for one because the bed couldn't get above 70 while the hot end was running. So I couldn't do ABS on that thing. And yeah, 30 millimeters a second was about as fast as I could go. So I know that pain, bro, Derek. Okay, guys, have a good night. Take care. Happy building. Wash your hands.